Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So Kabam's Twitch live stream just finished, and I'm basically gonna give you guys first of all a quick summary of all the new things that they announced or informed us about, and then I'm gonna go into them slightly bit deeper and give my opinion about them. So for those of you who just want to know pure fact, TLDR version is number one and the most important thing, definitely by a country mile, is that quite soon, it's not going to be the next update I believe, but in near future, we are going to be changing to 4-day Alliance Quest week, and on top of it all, we will be able to select ourselves which days every battle group plays these 4 days. And this is the biggest thing to happen with Alliance Quest since the inception of the game. It only took about 8 years to give us back our weekends. So now that those people who want to go out for a party or have a day out planned with family will not have to check their phone constantly on Saturday, for instance, or something like that. And that is absolutely awesome. The second thing that is slightly further in development, but is also kind of like coming to the game, is changes to Alliance War, where we're basically going to have no defense placement day, and we're going to have 2 days of attack phase. So because we're getting rid of the defensive placement phase, the length of the war will not change. It's just that the entire duration of the war will be used for attack phase. And then the way it's going to work is you're going to set your defense before the matchmaking starts, and the matchmaking is going to find you the match, and that's it. The defense is locked in. Then during the war, if you want, you can adjust your defense for the next war, and that I think is definitely going to be the most helpful for smaller alliances or alliances that aren't as kind of like on point. When it comes to tier 1 alliances, on my personal opinion, I think I kind of like them, but I will definitely go over some counterpoints there as well about the people who haven't been necessarily the most hype about the 2-day of attack phase with no placement phase. And then additional kind of like feature setup is where officers in further future will be able to assign fights and specific paths to accounts, and that is meant to basically increase the ability to do the war planning in-game rather than how Tier 1 alliances currently do it. It's always on some Google spreadsheets or in line messages and things like that. And that could, in theory, make it easier because they're kind of trying to get to the point where you need to go outside of the game as little as possible. And speaking of that, there will also be some sort of additional pinboard version for Alliance recruitment, where alliances will be able to, post what they are looking for in their members, and I suspect likewise members what they are looking in Alliance, and there will be some sort of improvement in Alliance recruitment system in game so that people do not have to go to different line rooms, Discord chats, forums or something like that in order to find Alliance. And then the other things that we did get a little bit of preview from was Kate Bishop and Viv Vision clips of gameplay and brief kind of descriptions of them. And I must say that Kate Bishop looked good. I have nothing against Kate Bishop. I do like the comment that she was made with battlegrounds in mind, which means it automatically piqued my interest because, everything MCOC related at the moment to me is kind of revolving around battlegrounds pretty much. But Viv Vision specifically looked absolutely bonkers. And I might actually make another video discussing it because there is so much potential from what I saw where Viv Vision could activate guaranteed phase mechanic after every single one of her combos, and she seemed to have a very potent power control on level 1, which means that she can be like super aggressive. You never need to parry by the looks of it, and you can keep opponent under 1 bar of power by the looks of it, which just seems like such a bonker combination. And I'm not gonna lie, based on out of every champion mini clips or initial impressions that I have watched in a very, very long time, Viv Vision seemed like the champion that I'm most interested in. I don't want to overhype her without knowing her full abilities and all that other stuff, but it looked absolutely crazy. Something that I'm 1000% interested. Again, It is very early on. There might be some deal breakers. There might be some things that do not work with her smoothly enough or something like that. We do not know. But Real Vision is looking crazy good. Right. So, returning back to the Alliance quest. This is something that I have been calling for years now, for Kabam to give us 4-day Alliance quests and give us our weekends back. And they did one better, which enables every battle group to select which days you do Alliance quest, and then the rewards will be paid out on a 7-day cycle, and AQ is going to shift to 7-day cycle. Obviously, this will involve rejiggling of how opponents' attack and health scale, because that will have to be done in the course of 4 days instead of 5, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, every single cycle of Alliance quest and every single set of rewards will come a day earlier as well. So that is kind of important to keep in mind. Even if the rewards initially might seem slightly tinier, that would be because it's, every 7 days instead of every 8 days. And also, in this manner, Alliances will not get the rewards when the day 4 finishes, because you do not know necessarily when the day 4 will finish, for each battle group. It could be different. There might be a battle group that plays AQ on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So right now, we get the rewards when day 5 is up, once every 8 days. And with this method, we will basically be getting the rewards on day 7 once a week, whenever that happens to be. But, if you finish on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then some battle groups, will have to wait the 3 days. But ultimately, it's the same, or technically even slightly quicker, because it's going to be once a week. That was one of the questions that people definitely asked. About the Alliance war changes, I have heard mixed reception. My initial thoughts are positive, just because it will give officers more time to plan, right? Because officers, at the moment basically need to make themselves available immediately as the war starts, and so on and so forth. And that also will, free up people, if they're unable to play, to have a bit more of a window or a leeway to do the attack phase. Again, obviously that more so helps, I think, slightly lower tier alliances, but in high tier wars as well, you always need to make sure that, you can play, that there's going to be no distractions, that the conditions are kind of optimal, so you don't need to make silly excuses like, somebody walked in the room or something like that. So I do think that bit is definitely helpful. There are some worries with that. Number one, slower alliances will have their champions locked in for a longer amount of time, I believe. Because at the moment, when you place your defenders in placement phase, your defenders are not locked in. Your defenders get locked in only when attack phase starts, and that means that your defenders can be locked in for a maximum of 24 hours. And now that window of maximum that those champions will be locked in seems that it will be extended to 48 hours. At the same time, if your alliance clears the map at a regular pace, that means that nothing will change. The only change, your defenders will only be locked in on defense longer if your alliance takes the full days or more than a day to clear the boss and finish the map. If you finish the map in first half a day or first 8 hours or something like that, then for the rest day and a half, those champions should not be locked in. So I do think it's kind of like a bit complicated subject. I think it's going to work out better for some. I think it's going to work out worse for others in terms of the roster commitment and your champions being tied in Alliance War. Or hopefully, perhaps Kabam can just get rid of it completely. I do not think there is any meaningful reason to lock the champions in at this stage in the game, and hopefully Kabam changes that. The other complaint that I have heard about the change to Alliance War is something that Kabam doesn't realize. At the moment, in top tiers, in top 2 tiers, I would say probably, but definitely in tier 1, based on plus-minus ratings that alliances see, all of the alliances basically have gotten together and they share these plus-minus screens in a room with, the top-tier alliance officers, and every player in top tier Masters Alliances knows who they are going up against before the war starts. Even though we do not have it explicitly told us in the game, by sharing the win-loss ratios, every tier 1 alliance basically figures out who they are up against within a couple of hours of the matchmaking, finishing. And that often changes the strategies. That often, knowing who you are fighting might need you to rethink what bands of champions you're going to use. Knowing that, you might rethink and might want to rethink, how the defense is positioned based on what you know about the opposing players. Like a great example here would be New Nation actually entirely switched battle groups when going up against GT40. Like we migrated entire battle group 3 to battle group 1 and so on and so forth, just as a little bit of additional extra difficulty that we tried to give to GT40 for that one specific war. It is not something we do often. It is not something that, we would have done if we went up against, most other alliances. But it is a strategy as part of this game. And Kabam is kind of taking that away from tier 1 alliances. And I definitely know that there are people who are not overly happy with the fact that now you cannot make any adjustments to your defense before the war starts. And that kind of takes away a little bit less of a strategy there. So I'm not entirely sure what I think about the changes to Alliance War, but ultimately I do think that 2-day attack phase will definitely, help majority of the alliances. Right. Then on top of that, I really liked Viv Vision gameplay. I'm not gonna lie. Viv Vision looked awesome. But that's pretty much it. So those are the news. So again, to quickly and briefly recap, 4-day Alliance Quest week, 2-day attack phase with no placement phase coming to Alliance War, assigned path and assigned fights in Alliance War, improved recruiting tools that is further in development, and gameplay showcases of Viv Vision and Kate Bishop. That is all the relevant information that was discussed in that Kabam's live stream. So let me know what you guys think. What is your opinion about AQ, AW changes, anything else? And I'm gonna talk to you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about